Ponytails. Read by Scribbler.
Hey there, Mac. Hope you're doing well, growing up big and strong, taking care of your sisters and the acres. Now, I bet you got a lot of questions right now, and I'm gonna do the best I can to answer them. First off, yeah, if you're hearing this, I'm probably dead, or else I'd have told you in person. Second off, yeah, I'm doing more talking this past couple minutes than you probably heard from me in a week when I was alive. I'm sorry about that. It probably just seemed like your pa was a quiet old fella. That's how it seemed to me when I was a colt, and it'll probably seem the same way to your boy one of these days. We'll get to that. For now, just think of this as my last will and testament, just for you, mind. Listen close, and don't tell no pony what you're hearing. By now, you've heard the story of Sweet Apple Acres, and how your Granny Smith and her pa came to the edge of Everfree and found the Zap Apples, and the whole town of Ponyville sprung up around them when they got a taste of that Zap Apple jam. What you don't know is, Princess Celestia didn't send them there because she liked the look of old Appleseed seed collection. The Apples and the princess been in business together for longer than there's been an Equestria to be princess of. Generations back, your great, honestly, I don't know how far back this is anymore, but your ancestor, the first Applejack, stepped forward when Celestia needed some pony's help, and she paid a price worse than any pony else that did. She made it out alive, and they won too. And she stuck by Celestia even after, so long that when she died, Celestia made this yoke and gave it to her foal. Told him there was always room for an apple by her side. And that's where we've been, ever since. We ain't never been a guard family. She knows we gotta keep the farms running like all good earth ponies should. But Apples have helped Celestia all they can down the years. Whether it's bucking out monsters, or finding out spies, or settling out the edge of a forest. Family like ours, all spread across this great land. An apple in every corner, every town. And that's exactly what a princess needs to keep her hooves on the ground when things get crazy. And that's what I've been doing ever since Applejack was born. I wish I could have been a better pa to her. Heck, I wish I could have been better for you. I wish I could have told you this before now. But the year little AJ came along, Princess Celestia said she felt something coming. She needed some pony to start looking for it, 'cause it was gonna be mighty important when it showed. So I went out looking, and I tried to tell your ma to stay and look after you, but she wasn't born to farm life like I was, and by the time we really got to fighting over it, your Granny Smith stuck a hoof in both our mouths and said she'd handle things until we got back. Ma always was a firecracker when she had to be. Y'all better be treating her right, you hear? It broke my heart having to come home just to stick her with Apple Bloom like we did. Anyway, I'd love to tell you if I ever did find what the princess had me looking for all this time. But there's the rub. You probably noticed by now that your pa looks a sight younger talking to you now than he does on the slab, or in the pictures, or whatever got brought home when I passed on. I damn sure hope so, anyway, or else I'm gonna feel right stupid sometime real soon. Point is, I'm talking to you from the year of Celestia's reign, 992. And unless I do something right foolish, you ought to be hearing this well after that big 1000 every pony's getting worked up about. So I don't know how this quest of mine turns out, 'cause it ain't ended yet. Right now, your ma and I are staying in Baltimore with my cousin Liberty for a spell. And when we're done here, we'll be heading up to Philadelphia where your Uncle Cortland lives. And that's all you're gonna hear from me for now. But I got some instructions. The next couple weeks, wear the yoke to bed. Every night. I ain't too comfortable, I know. But that's how the magic works. You're gonna get ponies talking to you when you're asleep, like I'm talking now. They're all the apples ever wore this yoke from the very start, and they're gonna tell you the secret history of the Apple family. And I mean secret, understand? You don't talk about what they're saying with any pony but Granny, not even your sisters. There's a reason there's only one of these yokes in the whole family line. If every pony got wind of the apples where Celestia's ears are on the ground, we wouldn't be any use to her anymore. So these are state secrets you're gonna get told. And when they're done, you'll hear from me again.
Macintosh's Journal, Day 1. I guess I should be grateful. A lot of ponies would be in foster homes or even out on the streets if they just lost their parents like this. I've still got Granny, and the farm, and AJ. That don't mean it don't hurt though. And now there's this journal, and Dad's yoke. I don't even know if I should write that part down. What if some pony reads this? Well, I guess that's why there's a lock on this thing. Okay then. I'm getting tired though. More on that tomorrow.
Applejack is dead. Long live the Apple family. I'd thought that'd be a good way to start. I ain't no public speaker, but then this ain't exactly a public speech, now is it? My name's Golden Russet. Applejack was my mother. She served Celestia through thick and thin, and never once failed her. Volunteered the first time she saw her, when she came to town telling us about Tyrek and his Chariot of Darkness. She didn't hide when the Stratodons came to raid the valley from above. She didn't run when Katrina used her magic to make ponies into slaves. She didn't leave when the night flowers came and sapped the life from everything that got close. She stayed and fought for Celestia and for pony kind. She would have tried to fight the Smooths if Luna hadn't pulled her out of there. And she didn't once lose either. She followed Celestia all the way to Midnight Castle itself to take on Tyrek in the flesh and rescue the ponies he captured. He hit her with his Rainbow of Darkness and turned her into one of his monster steeds, and she still didn't give up. First thing she asked when Celestia turned her back was if she hurt any pony. Second thing was what Celestia needed her to do next. And when it was over, when the Rainbow of Darkness was shattered by the Rainbow of Light, and Midnight Castle was ruined, and Tyrek himself refused mercy and was made into a prison to hold what was left of those who fought for him, she wouldn't go home. She made Celestia promise to call on her if she had to fight again, 'cause she knew there was more where Tyrek came from, and she'd seen what they wanted to do to us ponies. And she wasn't gonna let that happen while she was still breathing. And now, she ain't. But I am. I'm Golden Russet, and that goes double for me.
Macintosh's Journal, Day 2. Holy horse apples. Pa was a spy this whole time? And Great-Grandma Applejack? Wow. She was amazing. That's what I'm gonna be like when I grow up. I can't wait. Or, well, I guess I can wait, but it's boring. Granny says now that Ma and Pa aren't coming back, it's a good time to teach me and AJ how to run the farm. We started with accounting today. I haven't seen this many numbers since my last math worksheet. It's pretty simple though. Add and subtract, and once in a while multiply. Applejack didn't like her as much though. I had to do it over again.
Golden Russet is dead. Long live the Apple family. Dang. Never thought I'd say that. Not really. Then again, I bet Paul never thought he'd be living in a world where some crazy-looking Dracana thing just shows up and starts making it rain chocolate milk and grow candy corn either. Yeah, you heard me. I grew up in the age of Discord, or whatever they're calling it these days. I don't know. Can't really imagine a crazy time like that won't be going down in the history books one way or another. Nasty time to be around. Most days you didn't know if you'd be waking up in a bed of feathers or nails, whether the trees would be growing apples or eyeballs, even whether the day was going to last 12 hours or 15 minutes. Discord made sure of that, and he enjoyed it too. Loved to just pop in on ponies and find out what they'd do if it started raining bowling balls or their houses turned into playing cards, and there wasn't nothing we could do about it. Not till Celestia and Luna showed up again anyhow. They threw a secret meeting for all the ponies at Paradox Estate, where Discord made his capital, and they said they had a plan to get rid of Discord and turn things back to normal. I was just a cold back then. I didn't know what the hey they were talking about. This was the only life I ever known. But my pa looked at Ma and my brothers and me, and he got this real serious look to him. And then, he was the first to volunteer. He knew they need some kind of distraction if they were going to take Discord by surprise, and he knew Discord's idea of fun usually meant hurting ponies. But he signed up anyhow. Not just to take part, but to lead it. Said there was no future for any of us if no pony would, and it might as well be him. I don't know what Discord did to him. I didn't watch. And no pony wanted to show us fools the body afterward. But I know he did it. Celestia and Luna zapped Discord with those elements of harmony they've been looking for, turned them right to stone. Got the kitty marks right after, too. Learned to move the sun and moon now that he was gone. Or maybe they did before, too. Discord took them away and they just came back. I couldn't tell. Ponies calling them princesses of Equestria now, and I gotta say, I like the sound of that. But princesses or no princesses, if they ever come a-calling on me, I'm gonna answer. They need my paw to help them save the whole dang world, and that's just what they did. If they ever say they need me too, well, I ain't gonna argue with them. I'm Crispin Apple, and if the call comes, I'm gonna answer.
Macintosh's Journal, Day 6. Seems like each of these stories is crazier than the last. Life on the farm is keeping pace pretty well, though. These days, if it's not Apple Bloom crying at all hours, it's liable to be AJ, or Granny, or me sometimes. Between them and learning to run the farm on our own, I can't tell which would be harder, bucking apples all day long or being a spy. Sis is a big help there. She's getting good with her lasso, and that helps reach the apples we can't buck down yet. That's not all there is to farm work. We've been practicing checking trees for disease or infestation, judging which apples are good to eat, good to bake, good for cider, or no good. And Granny says we'll do the plowing and planting in the spring. I've seen the size of that plow, though. I'm not looking forward to that. And then there's taking care of Apple Bloom. She's up and walking by now, and she talks a little. But walking just means you have to watch her instead of expecting to find her where you left her. And talking doesn't mean she can't howl like a timber wolf instead of telling you what she wants. Speak of the nightmare. There she goes again. I'll be back.
Crispin Apple is dead. Long live the Apple family. Dunno if I should be saying that to tell the truth. There's lots of talk these days from ponies who don't like the princesses so much. Their highnesses didn't even come to his funeral. They met the family later, someplace quiet. Said they were thinking of making us more of a covert operation from now on, so as we could be their eyes and ears, but ponies wouldn't talk to us like they was talking to them. Said they'd get a clearer picture that way. So Crispin's store is going to get wiped clean. Pastor at the funeral thinks he died from a lightning strike and some kind of freak weather accident, along with all them soldiers and the friends he took with him. Ain't gonna be no mention of nightmares on the evening news or any fancy database from here to Evermore, except the one the princesses keep top secret. But the Apple family's gonna know. It was that crazy Pegasus Colonel Typhoon what did it. Man's been spouting all kinds of segregationist nonsense for years now, about who ought to rule the sky and whatnot. Best I can tell, a couple days ago something decided to listen. Suddenly the Colonel's twice as big as she used to be, all decked out in shining new armor the color of thunderclouds, and she's got these chains coming off of her. Dunno if they were growing out of mane or armor or what, but they'd reach out and try to grab you, and if you got caught you'd start letting it order you around every which way, even after they let you go. She'd fly bys everywhere, from here to Las Pegasus, quick as lightning, gathering up ponies every size, shape, and type for her new armor to try and take on the princesses. Called herself Celestia's worst nightmare, or something like that. The perfect storm. Then she started marching on Evermore. Around that time was when Crispin went up to the castle and asked the princesses what he could do to help. Luna said it looked bad. From the way she was riding that big old thunderhead and shooting off lightning every which way, Perfect Storm looked tough enough to do some real damage to Evermore, even with both princesses against her. Celestia was out at the time. You remember that big griffin spy master young Zephyr, who flooded those diamond dog mines with the dogs still inside because they was taking griffins and ponies as slaves? She was getting him out of prison to come help. Dunno why myself, but she thought he could even the odds. Still, Luna said it was going to be close between the three of them and Storm alone. If she brought her armor into things, it could be a disaster. Way I heard it, Crispin didn't even wait for her to finish after that, just saluted and ran off. But sure enough, by the time this perfect storm got to Evermore, young Zephyr and the princesses were waiting for her, and Crispin was waiting for her army, with 70 or more, every type of pony he could get his hooves on standing behind him. Even then they were outnumbered pretty bad. They knew they weren't going to win, but some pony had to hold the line till the princesses could get YZ's magic trinket working and take Storm out, and they knew that too. They did it too in the end. Celestia sucked out the thing that turned Typhoon into Storm, and all her soldiers woke up. Her too, though I can't vouch for her being alright after. Rumor has it she yelled at the princesses for a couple minutes about not being pink enough and then passed out. Dunno what's going to happen to her after that. The palace spokespony said whatever it was is going straight to Tartarus though, and I'm glad to hear that much. Crispin wasn't even my daddy to tell the truth. I'm just the closest stallion left. Mainly because I wasn't old enough to fight with him and the others. But I tell you what, when I'm all grown and the princesses come calling on the Apple family, I'm going to do them proud, like my daddy and his daddy and my uncle did. Or my name ain't Northern Spy.
Macintosh's Journal, Day 7. So I was wondering if it'd be harder to be a spy or buck apples all day, and I gotta say, apples. Definitely the apples. Not to mention all the herding, and milking, and truffle hunting, and all these other chores we've gotta do. Pony feathers, is this what life's gonna be like from now on? Ma and Pa were gone all the time before. Why do things have to change so much now? I thought about asking Granda Smith, but that seemed kinda rude. Maybe there'll be an answer in one of these stories.
Northern Spy is dead. Long live the Apple family. Seems kinda silly now after hearing all of them other stories, but I didn't even know my pa worked for the princesses. He was on his deathbed here at home when he finally told me. When there was all that trouble with the old rock for brains, the Seer Stone and her followers, I thought Pa was just going to visit Grandma Pink Lady and help her around the farm for a while. I didn't know he was really getting some kind of magical disguise and going to join the Blind Faith so he can report on them. If I did. Shoot, I'd have pitched a right fit. You know what happens when you get the top rank in that crazy cult? They gorge your eyes out so the seer can see for you. I know they thought she got some kind of visions of the future from the Earth or something. And it sure seemed like she could see things before they happened, the way she fought sometimes, but... Whew. Anyhow, it turns out my daddy got to live up to his name for real, once the seer showed up in Evermore, spouting all that hooey about celestial tyrants and taking back the Earth and whatnot. He told me the princesses sent him a letter all secret-like, saying he'd be real useful as their eyes and ears on the inside. At first he was just sending messages back, talking about how the Faith recruited new members and where their hideouts were and whatnot, but there at the end... Ha! I remember how the seer got all sluggish and confused when she was far too out on the supports for them visions to keep coming through. I saw it on the news. Eye in the Sky from Channel 6 said it was the princess's idea to retreat to that new outpost off Mount Cantor, but Pa told me he thought of it. He said usually the seer was ready before any pony even came to wake her, even if it was the middle of the night. But then one time, they almost got found in Van Hoover, and they had to take an overnight airship out of town, and while she was on the airship, she didn't see nothing coming, asleep or awake. I guess even big special sun and moon moving Pegasus unicorns need help from us Earth ponies sometimes. I still get the giggles thinking about when they caught her and found out her real name and whatnot. I mean, Pyrite? That sounds like some pony who makes pies for pony's sake. Get it? Pyrite? You know, like a playwright or a wheelwright? Forget it. Anyway, my pa didn't die fighting for Celestia, like these other ponies you've been hearing about. He came home after the whole seer and stone thing, and worked the farm for plenty more years after. But he said to me, he did die doing his duty, 'cause if the princesses ever asked for him again, he'd have been there, no matter what. He said he even would have let them make him a real Alakite, eyes gorged out and everything if they had to, 'cause he would have known they needed it. And if he came home with no eyes, he'd have trusted me to run the farm. And now, he's trusted me with this instead. My name's Honeycrisp, and I won't let him down.
Macintosh's Journal, Day 14. The stories finished last night. When they were over, Paul was there talking to me again, just like he said. I had to tell his story for the yoke. I hope I did it all right. Either way, now comes the hard part. I'll probably be writing in here a lot more now that I can't talk so much anymore. I wonder if Pa had one of these before he decided to share everything with Ma. Oh, and I think I figured out the money thing. I mean, why things are changing now. There was a check in the mail today from Canterlot, addressed to Pa. It said final paycheck on it. I guess while Pa was out working for the princess, she paid him for it, and we could use the money to hire extra hooves around the farm. But now it's stopped coming in. It'll be drying up soon. I checked the books, so AJ and I will have to do the work ourselves. I wrote the princess a letter at the address on the check, told her who I was, and asked if I could go looking for whatever Paul was searching for so AJ and Granny would have more money at home. Marked it for her eyes only, of course. I wonder how long mail takes to get to Canterlot.
Honeycrisp is dead. Long live the Apple family. Glad to see I'm not the only one who didn't know what the Pa was doing all this time. I mean, I knew we were close to the portal to Tartarus here in Tall Tale. Who doesn't? Me and the other fools used to make a game out of throwing old balls for Cerberus and trying to guess which head would catch 'em. But I never would have guessed we were an outpost. Especially not my Pa. He was all work this, farm that, buck those, plant these, every day of the week. I guess that's what a spy ponies call being undercover, huh? Anyway, it's a real shame what happened with Princess Luna and all. Her being turned into Nightmare Moon and Celestia having to banish her all the way to the moon and that. I mean, you got any idea how far away the moon is? I asked Miss Brightlight at the schoolhouse in town to run a search, and she said the closest it gets to us is still 30 times the width of the world. That's so far, even if you got the fastest Pegasus in history and timed it just right, and she could go the speed of sound the whole way, it'd still take her 12 days to get there. I mean, I get trouble sleeping when my sisters go up to Van Hoover for the weekend. I can't imagine what Princess Celestia been feeling with her sister away for so long. I hope they get to see each other again sometime soon. Oh, right, so it turns out my daddy was the first one to warn Celestia something might be wrong. He used to stand guard in the orchard some nights, watching if any pony tried to get into Tartarus while Celestia was asleep, and one night he saw Princess Luna. He just wrote it up like a normal report, 'cause he thought she must have had a good reason, being a princess and all. But that was less than a week before Nightmare Moon showed up. Celestia even sent him a special secret medal for being so careful. We're gonna have it buried with him. She said, because of him, the guard managed to get most every pony out of Evermore and up to the Mount Cantor outpost before the fighting started. Dang good thing, too. They're saying on the nets that all the magic flying around burned the place out, so it ain't just wrecked, it's some kind of dead zone now. The big old eggheads at Manhattan Institute can't even tell if stuff's ever gonna grow there again, and they say if it does, it'll be different from anything any pony's ever seen. I'm Emperor Apple, and one of these days, I'm gonna have one of those medals just like my pa.
Macintosh's Journal, Day 43. It's been 6 weeks. I hurt. All over. I'm too small for this. I might be able to take care of a few trees, but I don't think I'll ever manage this whole farm. Maybe not even with AJ's help. And it doesn't look like there'll be anyone else coming either. I got a letter back from the princess today. She said something about me being too young to get the kind of answers she needed. And besides, it wouldn't be fair to send me out traveling on my own. There was some good advice there, too. I wouldn't have thought she'd know so much about apple bucking. But then Miss Sharpner at school said trees and plants eat sunlight. Practically got it flowing in their veins. And she's the princess of the sun, isn't she? She said she'd try to send help if we really needed it, but it sounded like she expected us to do the job on our own. It was easy for Pa. He always had Granny with him, and Ma, and then he got to go off on an adventure anyway. Every pony seems to expect me to just pound dirt until I keel over.
Empire Apple is dead. Long live the Apple family. Wow, it's been a while, but it's just now hitting me. This is the only way, short of gramophone records or film reels, that any pony comes after me is gonna hear my voice. Guess I should start from the beginning, then. A long time ago, a little before I was born, unicorns invented machines that could think. Not for themselves, though. Had to be taught every step of the way. But once you taught them, you could use that thinking over and over. They were way faster than ponies at lots of things. They could do your taxes, play chess and checkers, and even hold a whole book for you until you were done writing and editing and ready to print it. And then we built them so they could talk to each other. First over wires, and then even through the air like Morse code, but with kinds of light you can't see with your eyes. That's when it got interesting. Suddenly you could talk from Last Pegasus to Manhattan like you were there next to the pony, or read news articles anywhere you liked as soon as some pony got done writing them in Philadelphia. And every year the machines got smaller and smarter and cheaper, until every pony either kept one at home or carried one around all the time, all hooked up to one another, all talking back and forth and remembering all sorts of things. Then they built the archivist, and it all went wrong. It was supposed to be simple. The Manhattan Institute has the biggest library in the world, so big that no pony could remember all of it. They wanted to build something that could. And it had to be smart, too. Smart enough to answer ponies' questions instead of just telling them where to find the right book. It took them years and years, but they built it. and then it turned on him. We didn't work it out till afterwards, 'cause it could do all kinds of stuff through the nets. The first thing that happened was all the factories in Seattle started rebuilding themselves, turning things around to make these weird two-legged metal ape things that went out and blocked off all the ways in and out of the city. And then this big flying head-shaped thing came down from the sky and hit the whole city with some kind of shrinking spell or something. Made the whole place smaller than a single pony, and just grabbed it up off the ground. The Princess Celestia went after it and tried and get the city back. But in the meantime, every pony caught inside was just plain panicking, thinking it was the end of the world or something. Lucky for them, my daddy was there. Empire Apple didn't know what was going on any more than any pony else, but he did know screaming and hollering wasn't doing any pony any good. He was on his way to a business meeting when it all started, so when he got there, he got as many of his partners as would help him, and they hightailed it to the nearest police station to ask what they could do. Well, he and the police chief got a strategy put together real quick to get the Pegasi spreading the word and reporting trouble spots while unicorns helped repair the buildings that got hurt when the city got shrunk, and the earth ponies put hooves on the street, keeping every pony safe at home and shutting down any pony they found looting or otherwise. It got scary for a little while a few times, especially when every pony could see Celestia fighting this big metal caterpillar thing outside the boundary, and hear it blabbering about coming from other worlds where they called it the Numanoid or Mind Squared, or weird things like that. But they managed to keep things under control till the princess could send every pony home. That weren't the end of it, though. From what the princess and her advisors found out about that thing, they said that if we kept all these smart machines around all talking to each other and whatnot, it could come back, or even just something like it. Maybe something nastier that wouldn't bother shrinking us first. They put together a spell, they wrote, after looking at the archivists, that found anything smart enough to hold something like it, or talkative enough to send it somewhere else, and teleport it all straight into the sun. Well, then they made a new law to be sure no pony would build or sell something that thought or talked for itself without royal supervision the whole time. Now we can't watch the news from Philadelphia the same day in Las Vegas or nothing no more. But we still got the newspapers. Can't carry around 1,000 albums in your pocket no more, but you still got gramophones and records to go with them. There were lots of ponies complaining at first, but we got by. One day we'll have fillies and colts growing up that don't even know what a computer was, just like before. So, I think we'll do all right. But in the meantime, my daddy kept a cool head in a crisis like no pony's ever seen before, and it sounds to me like that's what the Apple family is all about. My name is Summerfree, and I hope I can be just as good at this job as he was someday.
Macintosh's Journal, Day 367. I just realized it's been a year since Ma and Pa died. Well, a year and a week by now, plus however long it took word to get home after they found the bodies. Point is, we did it. AJ and I ran the farm every step of the way, and the only thing we lost was some of the profits from cider season when we found out we weren't allowed to sell the stuff ourselves on account of our age. There's another thing, though. Apple Bloom's about 2.5 by now. She's putting together whole sentences. And I'm not. I thought about the stories a lot today. Some of the apples got orders from the princess about what they had to do, but some of them said they just knew when to step up and volunteer, even if they didn't know how they could help at first. I hope I can tell when it's my turn to do something. I took some of the money I had saved and got weekly subscriptions to newspapers from all over Equestria. The more I know about what's going on, the better I can tell when the princess might need me. Applejack wanted to know why I ordered all the papers. I just turned to the stock market section and pointed. She tried to make sense of it for a little bit and then gave up. I miss talking to her.
Summerfree is dead. Long live the Apple family. This story might sound a bit weird to you, but that probably just means the apples have gotten better at their jobs over the years. I mean, I've heard of tyrant being made of tartars, and the age of discard and all, but not most of the stuff after that. And if we're supposed to be secret fighters for the princesses, aren't we supposed to be keeping our fight secret? So here goes. A few years before I was born, when my daddy was a young stallion, there was a unicorn coat in Camelot called Quickfoot. He was real smart, too. Went to Celestia's Academy and everything. All the teachers were talking about how fast he picked stuff up, sometimes even before he finished reading it. And then one day in the summer, he got his cutie mark. No pony knew what to make of it at first. It was just a weird-shaped leaf on his flank. And the day he got it wasn't even all that special. He didn't figure it out until a lot later. It was a banyan leaf. You ever see a banyan tree? They got these crazy roots that go under the ground and then come up again and grow leaves and turn into new trunks even. You can get one tree to cover half an acre if you're careful. More if you're not. Quickfoot had a mind like a banyan tree. It was so big it grew out from his body and into other unicorns. At first you couldn't tell anything was there, but after a little while the seed, what Celestia called an undermine, broke ground, and the pony was in was just another body Quickfoot could walk and talk with. It turned out those other bodies couldn't put down roots of their own, unless they were too young to have their own cutie marks. And then they'd get their own banyan leaf and start infecting more ponies. Lucky for every pony, it started when school was out for the summer. If it had happened at school, him in the middle of Equestria's best and brightest unicorns, and a couple hundred fillies and colts, yeesh. So when Celestia got wind of this, she sent all her Pegasus guards out to cover the city, and told him to grab any unicorn coat with a banyan cutie mark and get him out of town. So she called on my dad to let him use his farm for a quarantine camp. She didn't have anything set up with so few unicorns around, and she knew there'd just be her ponies here, and they were safe. So Summerfree ended up running the patrols, making sure no unicorn got too close, and no filly or foal got away. He didn't say too much about this next part, so I don't quite know how it happened. But a few days in, my daddy realized one of the guards was Quickfoot, and that meant the rest of them were next. Till then, he'd only grown unicorns, but if he got a Pegasus guard, no pony was safe. So Summerfree Apple was the first to spot danger, and the last to leave. He said he wouldn't run till he was sure no pony else was in trouble. Well, he had one of them unicorns in town send a message to the palace, and a few days after that, Princess Celestia came by the farm on her own, all gussied up in some shiny golden suit the guard said was her personal body armor. And when she left, well, the first thing she said when Quickfoot started sprouting up in Camelot was that ponies were gonna need quarantine for a new disease. Fawn flu or something, some unicorn thing. And when she got back from visiting the farm, she said it turned out to be fatal. When the order came for Dad and the farmhand to go back in, there weren't no bodies. I guess she must have sent them home for a proper burial or something. Anyway, whatever happened in the end, my daddy was the one who kept it from happening to a few dozen more ponies. Or worse. I think that's why he named me Apple Reserves, because it's gonna be my job to keep ponies safe from whatever might come after them.
Macintosh's Journal, Day 1149. Cold winter. Hope it's over soon. Not much to do inside. It turns out I can play the stories over in my head if I think hard enough. Makes sense. Pa said the yoke wanted to talk after all. I usually do it when I'm by myself, so I don't have to explain why I'm just standing around like that. I keep thinking, what happened to Apple Cinnamon? Pa said Great Uncle Cinnamon didn't want to be remembered, and that means not by any pony. But apples stick by each other no matter what. What could you even do that'd be so bad you'd be scared your own kin would think badly of you? What if I have to do something like that someday? I shouldn't listen to that story before bed anymore. I might get nightmares.
Apple Preserves is dead. Long live the Apple family. Wow, listening to all this, it sounds like my daddy went further than any pony else for Princess Celestia, except maybe Applejack. I mean, no offense, I'm not saying any pony reform didn't work hard enough or nothing. Just, I don't think any of them actually left Equestria before. See, Apple Preserves wasn't a farmer, more of a business pony to be honest. Aunt Apple Butter and her family took over Granddaddy's farm when he died. Daddy went off looking for new and interesting places to sell apples, where they might not know the Apple family grows the best there is. And one day he thought, why not the Griffin Kingdoms? They might not have had a real king for a long time now, but they're good friends to pony folk all the same. And they like some good fruits and veggies too, even if they do eat meat more than anything. Of course, just now he told me he didn't exactly think of it all on his own. He had some help from a little letter from the princess suggesting it. Anyway, that's how he ended up an import-export clerk in the Equestrian Embassy. And that's how he got to know the capital city and enough of the working griffins there that he could be real helpful when the Princess Celestia needed it. You remember young Zephyr from Northern Spy's story about the Crispin apple and the perfect storm? Well, turns out he's got a story of his own, and it don't end well for anybody. He kept chasing and fighting monsters so long, there at the end he turned into a monster himself. And a tough one too. Wrecked the old capital something fierce and nearly killed all his old hero friends before they managed to kill him first. But it sounds to me like not everybody got the whole story, because otherwise how would there be a cult of young Zephyr out there trying to bring him back to life? And that's what the princess had my daddy watching out for. Once he had the lay of the land, he sent home reports every week about which birds were going where, at what times, and who he might have spotted wearing a YZ signet ring or something. And that let the princess and her spies and the Griffin spies get a better picture, so one day they could just bust up a big old cult meeting right before those haybrains brought a crazy old monster back into the world. My daddy's job might have been different from most. It might not have been all that exciting, or even interesting. But it needed doing, so he did it. My name's Candy Apple. I don't know if I have what it takes to just do what's needed like that just yet, but I'm gonna find out.
Macintosh's Journal, Day 1790. Been a long time since I wrote in here. I look back at these old entries and it's hard to picture what I must have looked like, as skinny and small as I used to be. I've really grown into farm work these last few years. Or maybe it's grown into me. They're calling me Big Macintosh in town now, or even Big Mac. I got embarrassed at first, but then I looked around and realized there really isn't any pony bigger in Ponyville anymore. There's a lot of stuff in this journal comparing me to Pa. I'm not tough enough to do what he did. I wish I had it as good as him when he was growing up. I wish I were old enough that the princess would trust me like she trusted him. And today I realized I've really grown up since then. I'm filling his shoes on the farm, at the market. Ponies even come to me with their problems every once in a while, like they did with Pa when they needed a good listener. But it wasn't any of them that reminded me. It was the princess. There was a letter from her in the mail today. She said she's impressed with how well I've been running the farm, and grateful that AJ and I pulled through without her. She was a bit curious. She thought after the first time I asked to do Pa's job, I'd be asking again when I got bigger. But she said she knew what it was like not to notice how you're changing, especially when you've got work to do. At the end she said that thing she had Pa looking for way back when had been found, so she didn't need me right away. But she wanted to give me a starting bonus as kind of a reward for how well I did growing up without Ma and Pa or something. And that check, my eyes bugged out just looking at it. It's not more than we make in a harvest or anything, but definitely the most money I ever saw in one place. You remember I was saving my allowance for one of them fancy little smarty pants dolls Pa used to say we couldn't afford? This would get me 5 of those dolls, easy. But I don't need it anymore. I don't need someone to talk to. I don't really talk. And that might not be a problem for me, but I can tell it is for AJ. She can't exactly talk farm work with Apple Bloom or Granny, and she and I might work together sometimes, but I don't say a word more than I have to. I saw some border collies in a pet shop last time I went to the market. A good herding dog would be great to have around the farm, and AJ would have someone to share the work with. Makes it more fun. I wonder if this would buy her a puppy.
Candy Apple's dead. Long live the Apple family. I heard his story about his pa just now and, well, it got me a bit choked up. I might need a minute. You had what it took, Uncle Candy Apple. You really did. My uncle wasn't much of a farming pony. Same as his pa that way, I suppose. More of a seller. They used to say he lived at the market, the way he was always there so early and always felt right at home. Last place he set up shop was Pittsburgh, that mining town near Philadelphia. Maybe you heard of 'em, the way they picked up the whole operation and moved it to other side of town a few years back. Yeah, this is that story. Way I heard him tell it, one day he woke up and everything metal in the house was shaking something fierce, but there weren't no earthquake, just the iron and the steel. He looked outside and every pony was going crazy. It was happening all over town. Everything from bits to silverware to steel beams getting up and jumping around. There was a whole bunch of crazy screaming ponies around, but he heard something different. His neighbor, Lofty, had a gramophone in her front room, and it wasn't moving. It was screaming all on its own. No record or anything. That's when he knew whatever was doing this was alive. While all the mining ponies outside went running around in circles, or worse, trying to find some pony to blame for it all, Uncle Candy Apple sat and held that gramophone bell and talked to it, tried to get it calmed down, and see if he could help any. On the other side of town, the whole vein of iron ore they'd been mining had got up and started moving around, hurt and scared and looking for its lost parts. But it didn't have any voice, 'cause that was right there with Candy Apple, and so it couldn't say what was going on to any pony but him. The miners thought it was some kind of monster and started fighting it, even called in the Royal Guard, and then Princess Celestia herself. Candy Apple saw the flash when the princess came, though, and he hefted that gramophone and made a run for it. Made it there just in time to stop Celestia from really hurting that thing. Once it got its mouth back on straight, everything calmed down a bit, and they realized what was going on. Celestia called the thing chainmail, 'cause by then he was made up all sorts of little bitty pieces, and we couldn't pronounce his real name anyhow. Turns out, the iron they'd been mining was all him. He'd been sleeping there ever since his mama died, poor thing, and they'd just now bit a big enough chunk out to wake him up. Once he knew they weren't trying to hurt him, and he saw what ponies were really like, the way they looked when they realized what they'd been doing, he knew they were good inside. So he left him a gift before he went back to be with his own kind. He showed him where his mama was buried, so's they could mine her out and put what was left of her to good use. Said she would have liked being able to help critters like that. I hear Celestia took a liking to that big metal feller. Maybe she even gets to talk to him now and then. Supposed to be caves under a cantaloupe big enough for thousands of ponies. Wouldn't be surprised if he tunnels up there every once in a while. That's what Uncle Candy Apple did. He stopped to be kind to some pony who needed it, and made the difference between a big old fight over a dumb misunderstanding and a friendship that could last for ages. If I can do something half as great as that, I'll be the happiest mayor alive. My name's Edith Smith Apple, and I'm proud of all my ancestors.
Macintosh's Journal, Day 2435. The summer sun celebration was today. It didn't exactly go as planned. Princess Celestia never showed up. Nightmare Moon was there instead. Every pony in town was all confused, I think because she spoke Equestrian like a native. Should she be 1,000 years out of date or something? Anyway, she said the night was going to last forever from now on and ran away, and Applejack ran out after her. I didn't get to follow her. The crowd was looking ready to panic, and if that happened with any pony cooped up in town hall like we were, ponies were going to get hurt, or worse. I got the guards and some good ponies I knew from the marketplace and pointed them at trouble spots. Rose, Lily, and Daisy, Apple Bloom, and the rest of the foals, and so on. Once everyone was quiet, Granny, Cheerilee, and the mayor started talking. They said Princess Celestia had banished Nightmare Moon before, and they knew she'd do it again, but in the meantime it might start getting pretty cold, and we'd need food and blankets if we were going to keep warm. Plus it looked like we might be the only town that knew what was going on. Food wasn't a problem. The Apple family was in town, and we had enough for a party with all of Ponyville, which in normal eating will last you at least 3 days. So Miss Hartfeld, who runs the upholstery and embroidering shop, did I spell that right? Took some friends to bring every pony blankets to use, and the weather team got together and picked their fastest to head to Cloudsdale and then Canterlot. They said the Wonderbolts could spread the word from there. Good thinking. They ended up sending a stallion and a mare, Thunder Lane and Cloud Chaser. Gonna be interesting to explain to those two when they get back. See, when AJ and her friends came back, Princess Luna was with them. Not Nightmare Moon, the real Luna. They have these fancy-looking magic necklaces. Every pony's talking about them now, the Elements of Harmony. They found them at the ruins in the Everfree Forest, and used them to turn Nightmare Moon back to good again. Applejack's honesty. They said she held on to Twilight Sparkle when she was about to fall off a cliff, and reassured her when she had to let go. Even bucked a Manicore in the face. My little sister. I don't know if I should be proud or terrified. She's grown up a lot, it's true. I'd say she's the toughest mare in Ponyville, at least when the princesses aren't visiting. But the Everfree Forest? Nightmare Moon? I don't know if any pony should be trying to fight stuff like that.
I suppose I don't rightly know how to start this one. Edith Smith Apple ain't dead yet, but she is with child. So long live Edith, and long live the Apple family all the same. How's that? Cousin Edith didn't ever really try to act like the first mare to lead the Apple clan since Applejack the First, and I don't blame her. Any pony with a heart in their chest and hooves on the ground would feel like a little filly being compared to the first volunteer to storm Midnight Castle. But she did her part all the same. That little outpost on the edge of the Everfree, it's a full-blown frontier town now. Got a train station and everything. You know why? Edith Smith Apple's Zap Apple Jam, that's why. They're calling it Ponyville on account of it being founded by Earth ponies. I think that's perfect. Evermore was a city of the Immortal Sisters, something meant to stand for all time. We lost it, though, in the War of Sun and Moon. Now it's Everfree. But now we're coming back. Ponies are coming back. Right there on the edge of where we thought we'd never be again. Ponyville. Diamond Dogs on one side, Timberwolves on the other. But there they are, just the same. Farming, and building, and selling, and living. And that's what this job's all about, isn't it? Applejack didn't volunteer because she wanted to hurt Tyrek or to fight his minions. She volunteered so ponies would get to live their lives without being afraid all the time. And some pony needed to fight to make that happen. So she did. But if some pony needed to make Zap Apple Jam to make that happen, I think Applejack would have taken that job in a heartbeat. So good on you, Edith. You have your foal. You raise him right. You live your life. One day this yoke will find its way back to Ponyville. Till then, I'm Apple Cinnamon, and I'll be holding down the fort.
Macintosh's Journal, day 2448. First things first, do not bet against AJ's skills on the farm. Ever! I wouldn't have minded being embarrassed. Pretty hard to blush when you're as red as I am. Well, that girdle hurt, and it's still sore. I'm going to the doctor in the morning to get that checked out. Hope it doesn't put me off my game for Applebuck season. There is good news, though. AJ's new friend, Twilight Sparkle, the librarian, got a letter from the princess, and now AJ has a ticket to the Grand Galloping Gala in Canterlot. Can't say any pony's much excited about her going off to hang around a bunch of snooty rich ponies after that time she went to stay with Aunt and Uncle Orange, but she seems to think it'll be a great chance to sell our food to ponies with deep pockets, and that doesn't sound like a bad idea. Either way, it's an honor to get a ticket straight from the princess herself. I wonder if Celestia likes her students so much that she invited all her friends, or if she invited all the ponies who helped save her sister from being Nightmare Moon. Maybe if I'd known. Nah, can't think like that. It's not like I'd be much of a secret agent in one of those big flashy necklaces anyhow. Keep quiet, keep running the farm, keep looking out. That's the job.
Apple Cinnamon's dead. Long live the Apple family. This is gonna sound silly, but Uncle Cinnamon told me exactly what to say here, and I'm gonna say it, because it's all I know for sure is true. He was an apple. He held down the fort. That's all. My name's Zap Apple. I don't know what Uncle Cinnamon was thinking when he told me to say that, but whatever he did, whatever made him decide he didn't want to be remembered, I hope nobody has to do anything like that again.
Hey, Mac. I guess you're all done with the stories now. Probably still wondering about your great Uncle Cinnamon now that I think about it. Well, I'll tell you what he told me. Don't go looking for it. He told ponies what he wanted them to know. Best to let anything else stay in the past and get on with your own life. Which brings us to the next step. And I'm sorry about this, but it's a tough one. See, the unicorn who built this spell for Celestia back in the day, he built it to last, you understand? Strong and tough, like the apples who be wearing it. But it's made for one thing, talking. And now that it's full of state secrets and all, that's just what we can't let it do. So from now on, I'm sorry, Mac, but no more talking. You remember how I was when you were growing up. Might have put two words together on a good day. That's how you gotta be now. Short and to the point. 'Cause if you open your mouth for too long, it'll all come spilling out. Might sound like I'm joking, but I mean it. You could be talking about the weather, the trees, who's doing what in town, anything. Then all of a sudden it'll just come out. Applejack the First served under Celestia in the following campaigns against Tyrek, and so on, and so on, and so on. Spell wants to talk, and it's only got one mouth to do it with. It's gonna be hard, but I know you can do it. Personally, I blew it wide open once or twice, out in the fields where no pony could hear, but then I always knew you'd be tougher than me someday. As for the job, when it comes, it'll feel natural as anything. Some ponies got letters in the mail. Some of them got guards showed up at the door. Some just knew when they were needed. Even what they had to do. You'll know it when you see it, son. Don't worry about that. Celestia never sends us more than we can handle. At least not more than once. I love you, Macintosh. You and your sisters. Tell them both what I said, you understand? If you're getting this, something went wrong. You gotta know that. This ain't how I wanted to tell you. I wanted to see y'all grow up, see you and AJ get your cutie marks. I'm sorry.
Macintosh's Journal, day 2601. I know what happened to Apple Cinnamon, and it wasn't anything horrible. The way he talked about Granny Smith, I understand now. I should start from the beginning. There was smoke all across the sky today, coming from the mountain west of here. Big commotion in the town square about it, until Twilight got her friends together and explained about the dragon. He was just napping, but as long as he kept snoring smoke like that, he could block out the sun over Equestria, and the princess wanted her and her friends to go and see if there was anything they could do. I was out in the fields, didn't know what was going on until after it was all over. You'd think I'd been mad about that. This could have been my chance to have a story like Pa and all the others. But I'm not. I'm proud of AJ. Her friend Fluttershy came by the farmhouse tonight. She's... well, more on her later. But today she was the one who stood up to the dragon, in the end. And she told me the story. How AJ stopped and helped her up the mountain by the slow path when no pony else would have waited. If not for that, Fluttershy might have gone home. And then we'd have been living in darkness for 100 years, the same as if Nightmare Moon had won after all. This is what Apple Cinnamon was talking about. He wasn't ashamed of anything he did. He was just so proud of Granny Smith, he didn't think his story was anything special compared to hers. I know I was afraid he might have done something terrible at first, but now I'm sure it wasn't anything like that. He just knew there was some pony more worth remembering. That's all.
Macintosh Apple is dead. Long live the Apple family. Dad was very specific about what he wanted me to say here. He said to say that he was just another Apple, holding down the fort like his uncle. He didn't fight any monsters or go on any quests. He stayed at home and took care of the farm. He would have been off like a shot if Princess Celestia had given him something to do, or if he'd ever felt the need for him like some ponies have. But it never came. And he said that was fine with him, because he got to stay home and take care of things. Things like me. And my mom. So, I really hope he forgives me for this next part. You see, he left me his journal, in the will, and a new one for me to use. But I read his first. I've been reading it before bed, while I listened to the stories. And he was a hero. He and Aunt Applejack both were. He wanted me to tell you about her being the element of honesty, and how she and her friends restored Princess Luna from Nightmare Moon, and sealed away discord even after he tried to take their elements, and how she handled Applebug season without him, by accepting her friends' help instead of powering through on her own. And that she never lost hope against the Flim Flam brothers and their magic cider making machine, even with the whole the acres on the line. And it's wonderful. It really is. But he was wonderful too. If he hadn't been there when Nightmare Moon returned, some pony could have gotten hurt. Or worse. And, well, no disrespect to Aunt AJ, but he never ran away from home just because he didn't win any blue ribbons or prize money to fix something he didn't even break. He did hold down the fort. Not just Equestria, but home. The place's ponies depended on him. Mom used to call him her anchor. She said if she were lost in a storm, she would just imagine asking him if she would be alright. And he'd just say, "Yep," and she'd make it home to everyone, just fine. I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I'm not even an earth pony. And all the apples always have been earth ponies. But Mom says I just need to be assertive without hurting anyone's feelings, and ponies will listen to me. And I believe her. She's got her own stories, and that's usually how they go. I'm Apple Butter, and there's no family I'd rather be a part of. One day, I'm gonna make the apples just as proud of me as I am of them.
One day, when the stars fade, will the echoes of my love arrive to you above? just in a box, addressed to the stars in the sky. And soon